Earlier this year, Director Ray sat here with Secretary Mayorkas and told this committee that there were still known and suspected terrorists at large in the United States that we knew had matched the terror watch list that came into this country illegally and that we didn't know where they were. And right next to him sat Secretary Mayorkas, and I said, what is the policy of DHS when you know that somebody matches the terror watch list? This is the reason we're having this hearing, because he could not explain to this committee that DHS actually has a policy to detain those people. He couldn't explain his policy. That's why we're here, because there are people on the terror watch list. Mr. Drummond, or Attorney General Drummond, can you tell us the extent of the damages that are being done in Oklahoma as a result of the illegal immigration to 8 million people who have entered this country illegally?
We shut down an illegal grow every day in the state of Oklahoma, where we detain and arrest upwards of dozens of people. They're refilled the next day with those who cross the border from either in a Mexican cartel or a Chinese syndicated crime organization. It is ceaseless.
Do you believe that the Department of Homeland Security, under the leadership of Secretary Mayorkas, is upholding the laws that we currently have on the books to stop illegal immigration into this country?
I think that there is a failure to enforce the laws on parole, removal requirements, detention, and the like.
I couldn't agree more. It was earlier said that we Republicans are going to the border in polo shirts and khaki pants, or something to that effect. Well, at least we're going to the border, and at least we're asking the questions, because when you talk to the Border Patrol agents, they will tell you that there are no consequences. The consequences do not exist. Deportation doesn't exist. The catch and release policies are allowing people to flood into my community of San Angelo, Texas, Midland, and Odessa. And the fentanyl deaths alone that have been catastrophic to this country, over 100,000 people, should be the sole reason that this committee comes together. I hope that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, when given your time, will examine the facts. The facts are that over 8 million people have come into this country illegally. The facts are that the Secretary of Homeland Security has not secured our country against terrorism, against fentanyl, against criminal gangs, against traffickers, against sex slavery, against any of it. He is complicit. In fact, he is willfully complicit, which is why he needs to be impeached. I yield back.
Gentleman yields. I now recognize Mr. Thanadar, the gentleman from Michigan, for his 5 minutes of question.
Thank you, Chairman Green. And thank you to our witnesses for being here today. Professor Bowman, would you say that Secretary Mayorkas done anything that rise to the level of high crime and misdemeanor?
No, Congressman.
Now, we know our immigration system is broken for decades. There is not much work done to reform our immigration system. And Secretary Mayorkas should not bear the blame for the inherent flaws within the system he has inherited. And my appeal to my Republican colleagues here is that rather than getting bogged down in an impeachment process that seems needless and devoid of constitutional authority, let's shift our focus, working together in fixing our broken immigration system. Our broken immigration system is causing our nation a loss of billions and trillions of dollars in economic growth. When I was 24 years old, living in India, having gotten admission into a PhD program here, and I made many trips to the American embassy in Mumbai to get a student visa. And the embassy kept denying me my student visa. They denied my student visa for 4 times. And only on the 5th time I got my visa approved because the counselor who had denied my visa for the 4 times had gone to America for her vacation. I mean, there is no doubt the system is broken. We are losing. Businesses keep telling me that they can't find a qualified, skilled workforce that they need to grow the businesses. Australia and Canada has taken advantage of our broken immigration system to attract highly skilled workers that our businesses need to grow and stay on top of innovation. We know immigrants are 60% less likely to be incarcerated than their native counterparts. I just want to take this time to appeal across the aisle to let us spend our energies and our constitutional authority to solve the problems, to fix the broken immigration system that we have not dealt with for decades. And let's not blame the Secretary for our broken immigration system, but let's fix it to help our economy, create jobs, and make things better for all. Thank you.
The gentleman yields. I now recognize the gentleman from New York, Mr. Garbarino, for his 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to witnesses for being here today. You know, I've heard a lot of the statements coming from my colleagues, and they're acting like we've come here on a whim. We're not here on a whim. This is, you know, we haven't come here lightly, this hearing today. There have been problems at the border for years, and now every state in the nation is seeing those effects negatively. I just look at my own state in New York and the costs of dealing with the crisis at the border. And we have been begging the administration to do something for years. Nothing has been done. We're not here on a whim. Something has to be done. So that's why we are here where we are. If leadership can't follow the laws of the land, follow the laws of the land. It's not just policy. There's laws. There are laws on the books, and they are being ignored right now by the current administration and the current secretary. If they can't follow the laws that are on the books, we need to find someone who will. So I think we have taken the time and necessary steps to arrive here in a proper manner. It's taken a while, and our country has been at disservice because of that. It's taken so long. But we're here today, and I appreciate you all being here. And I'm going to start with Mr. Attorney General Drummond. You've described Oklahoma's challenge with the explosion of unlicensed and illicit drug manufacturing in the state following the Secretary Mayorkas becoming the leader of Homeland Security. Can you describe more about the challenges of Oklahoma law enforcement faces in confronting this illegal activity, especially for rural police and sheriff's departments who have limited resources?
Let me give you a tangible example, Representative. One recent drug bust at an illegal grow operation, our agents were processing those who were committed felonies and detained, and those that were simply being trafficked in labor and sex. And one of those was identified as an individual on an HSI detainer for illegal entry. He was supposed to be in Flushing, New York. He was supposed to have on an ankle monitor. When we contacted the field representative in HSI, they said, you know, charge him with a felony, we'll come pick him up. But he, in fact, had not committed a felony. Then we were instructed to say, please direct him to turn himself in to the nearest HSI field office. And so we did that and let him go. That happens day in and day out across Oklahoma, where we don't have the resources afforded to detain those that we know are illegally in the state, committing crimes or complicit in the committing of crimes.
You would like to. In New York, we have laws that actually direct that they automatically be released. And we see crime after crime after crime be committed by the same person. And in New York, big state like New York, you think we'd have the ability, we do have the ability to keep people in prison and stop crimes from happening. Our laws direct us not to, but at least in Oklahoma, you would like to be able to make sure that these criminals are not released back out.
Now New York has one fewer. We haven't.
Good. Another crisis, Mr. Attorney General, that has resulted from the unprecedented chaos at the southwest southern border is the explosion of fentanyl poisonings in this country. We have seen many, far too many, in New York. From 2018 to 2022, Oklahoma experienced a 735% increase in fentanyl deaths, according to the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics. Oklahoma has a unique status, sitting just north of the Texas and right along major routes away from the southwest border for both drug and human smuggling. Can you talk about how the fentanyl crisis over the past few years has impacted your state?
So we, with the legalization of marijuana in Oklahoma, it's not become the drug of choice to cross the border. Fentanyl is now the drug of choice. And I take exception with the representative who said it is just to say no. It is a crisis in which we find fentanyl laced in many drugs, such that we instruct our young children to test every pill. If you think you're taking a pain pill, it's probably laced with fentanyl. And we can trace those back to the porous border through which the fentanyl product comes in concert with the Mexican cartels and the Chinese syndicated organizations.
Thank you. This is for any of the attorney generals. We get a lot of unaccompanied alien children in New York. Have you witnessed in your state these children being used for purposes of sex trafficking or other forms of exploitation? Anyone can jump in and grab it.
I will jump in quickly with an example. We busted a grow in northwest Oklahoma City, and in which there were two minor young women from China that were being sex trafficked. And we've intercepted communication in mainland China where they're effectively posting jobs to come to Oklahoma, quote, as massage spa, quote, able to endure hardships, quote, good hygiene. And yet these young women are being exploited, and we don't have a remedy to take care of them.
And quickly, I know.
Missouri now ranks 4th on the list of the states with the highest rates of human trafficking. In 2021, there were 1,100 reported cases, detected cases of human trafficking in the state of Missouri, 327 victims identified.
Congressman, human trafficking has increased in my state multiple 100% since 2019. I think that answers your question.
Yield back.
Gentleman yields. I now recognize the gentleman from Rhode Island, Mr. Magazine.
Thank you. Chairman, I've been listening to all of my Republican colleagues throughout this hearing, and I'm still struggling to understand what high crime they believe the Secretary has committed. I've heard that he hasn't achieved operational control, defined as not a single person crossing the border illegally. No administration has met that standard. I've heard them say that he has failed to detain everyone who is undocumented who has come across the border. No administration has. Under the Biden administration, Secretary Mayorkas has removed 3 million undocumented people from this country. So when I hear my colleagues say that deportation does not exist, I can think of 3 million people who would disagree with that. He has continued construction of a border wall that many of us question the effectiveness of, and when the Secretary and the President were asked, do you think that the wall works? They say, no, we don't think it works, but we're building it because the law requires us to do it. They're following the law. We face difficult challenges at the southern border. There is no question. Instability in other countries has driven people to come to the United States, and it has created a chaotic situation. But unfortunately, rather than working with us and the President and the Secretary to address these challenges, too many of my Republican colleagues are focused more on partisan grandstanding and campaigning, including this impeachment theater. So here's the real truth. President Biden and Secretary Mayorkas have taken steps to try to secure the borders, but House Republicans have tried to obstruct them every step of the way because they want a campaign issue more than they want to fix the problem. Here are the facts. In 2022, Democrats passed and the President signed $86 billion for enhanced border security, more personnel, more funding for ICE, additional technology. 200 House Republicans voted against that funding, including every single Republican member of this committee who was in office at the time. This year, in 2023, House Republicans passed their so-called Limit, Save, Grow Act, which would have cut the Department of Homeland Security's budget by 22%, eliminating 2,400 CBP officers. Every Republican member of the House voted for that bill, a 22% cut. The Republican Limit, Save, Grow Act, I guess, is to limit Border Patrol and grow chaos. This past year, President Biden requested $84 million in his budget to help states and cities with the costs associated with incoming migrants. House Republicans proposed cutting that funding to zero. So to the state officials who are here, who are coming from states that are having challenges with the migrant crisis, I've got bad news for you. Our Republican colleagues are trying to zero out the line item in the budget to help states and cities. I'm a former state treasurer myself, and that is deeply, deeply distressing. And of course, most recently, in October, President Biden requested $14 billion in supplemental funding for border enforcement. That would add 1,300 Border Patrol agents, 1,000 CBP officers, but House Republicans have not called a vote on this funding. And they'll say, well, there's other things in it that we don't like. You know, there's a growing pro-Putin wing in the House Republican caucus that doesn't like Ukraine funding. They don't want more asylum judges, even though that's part of how we solve the problem at the border. Fine. Call a vote on the parts that you do like. The CBP agents, Border Patrol. You've been sitting on it for 3 months. If you really, truly cared about solving the problem, you would call a vote. Instead, they've been sitting on it for 3 months, then went on vacation for a month, while Secretary Mayorkas was meeting with Senate Republicans and Senate Democrats to try to come up with a border plan. And House Republicans were MIA. And I know what my colleagues are going to say. They're going to say, well, we did H.R. 2. We are trying to do something. Don't forget what's in H.R. 2. All right? H.R. 2 would require nonprofit organizations to verify the citizenship of the people they were serving, or else they would risk losing their federal funding. It would request coffee shops all across the country, small businesses, to do citizenship checks of their employees. Zero out the funding for legal assistance for minors, so that once again we'd have 5-year-olds going into court and standing in front of judges with no lawyers. And we tried to negotiate with them. We tried to put in amendments to make that bill better, but of course they wouldn't work with us. So let's not forget what's really going on here. The Secretary is trying to do his job. House Republicans have been obstructing him every step of the way and are now trying to impeach him because this is about politics for many of them. It is not about solving the problem at the border, which is what we should be doing. With that, I yield back.
The gentleman yields. I now recognize the gentlelady from Georgia, Ms. Green, for her 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to bring up that nothing spells impeachment theater, unlike the last impeachment of our former president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. That was quite a political sham impeachment. But today we're talking about a real impeachment that needs to take place. There have been over 20 occasions that Secretary Mayorkas has claimed that the border is either closed or secure, starting even back in 2021, when he is on record stating the border is secure, the border is closed. Again, the border is closed, the border is secure. He stated to Fox News' Peter Doocy, the border is closed. Then he stated again to Congressman Pfluger here on this committee. Congressman Pfluger asked him, said the border is secure. We are executing our plan, as he stated to Congressman Pfluger. Secretary Mayorkas said, I have been very clear and unequivocal in that regard. Congressman, the border is no less secure than it was previously. He also stated to Congressman Michael Guest on our committee, when he was asked by Congressman Guest, do you maintain today, in light of the statements made by Chief Ortiz, that the border is secure? Secretary Mayorkas replied, Congressman, I stand by my prior assessment because indeed I define it as maximizing the resources we have to deliver the most effective results. His results have been quite effective. Here are some of Secretary Mayorkas's effective results. Approximately 10 million illegal border crossers from over 160 countries have invaded the United States since President Biden took office and Secretary Mayorkas started his job. This is a number combined with over 8 million encounters and over 1.8 million gotaways. In September 2023, over 341,000 illegal border crossers invaded our country, surpassing all national records. Secretary Mayorkas is bringing the results. In fiscal year 2023, there were over 3 million illegals who invaded the border, the highest number of yearly illegal alien encounters in U.S. history. That far surpasses those that were supposedly deported. There have been approximately 73,000 special interest aliens arrested at our border. Those are the ones that we know of, ladies and gentlemen. There's over 1.8 million gotaways, and we have no idea how many in that 1.8 million or more are terrorists, are from terrorist nations. We don't know where they are, what they're doing, and what their plans are for the United States of America, including the states that you're working very hard to protect. These are some impressive results. Most impressive for American taxpayers is the total federal expenditures, and this is just in 2023, stands at $66,449,136,000. But let's talk about total state and local expenditures. Stands at $115,608,730,000. The total national expenditures for border crossers for 2023 stands at $182,057,865,000. That is an unbelievable expense for the American people and the American taxpayers. And what are the results from Secretary Mayorkas's job performance? He's violated the Secure Fence Act of 2006 by not maintaining operational control of our border. He's violated the Immigration and Nationality Act. He has violated the INI by implementing catch and release policies when federal law specifically mandates the detention and removal of inadmissible aliens. He's violated the INI. He's violated the guarantee clause set forth in Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, which requires the federal government to protect states against invasion. And I'd like to just finish with asking each one of you, in your position and your experience and the problems that each of you are dealing with, do you believe that Secretary Mayorkas's actions and refusal to enforce the laws warrant impeachment?
Absolutely, Congresswoman.
He has failed to perform and is culpably inefficient, yes.
The Secretary is acting in violation of the law and constitutional order.
Thank you very much. I yield back my time, Mr. Chairman.